So what might spaciousness mean to you? How might you think about that in any area of your life? Perhaps there's a word, a mantra, or perhaps there is some visual thing you could think about. Um, think about a space that you really love. I know when I moved to the Pacific Northwest, I really had a hard time with how many trees there were and how closed in I felt until I went to the ocean. And there was my space. That spaciousness is there. Here in Colorado, it's the mountains for me. I really feel open and spacious. Perhaps just here, it's the lengthening of the inhale and the exhale. Last week, we worked with the respiratory diaphragm. So you might think of that space that's created by inhaling, filling the lungs. Just on your own time, make your way to your back on your mat. And then create a space, a shape that feels spacious to you on your back. So that could be stretching your legs long, arms overhead, and reaching that we've been working with pendiculation, so that yawn invoked pendiculation, where you just bring a yawn into your body and then see what happens, see how the space opens. You might take your body into an X shape with the feet wide and the arms wide. Really just pressing through one heel, same arm, or opposite heel and opposite arm. You could take the bananasana, so feet to one side, arms to the same side, and open side body. Get some spaciousness in the side body there. And just play there for a couple minutes. We'll meet on our backs. One of the things about the practice like yoga, an embodied practice, is that we can work with something like a mantra or thought or a feeling, and then translate into our body. We can go toggle back and forth between those things because it's all connected, right? So now just take the soles of your feet to the floor, press your low back into the floor, inhale. Draw your low back away from the floor. So just a few pelvic tilts just to feel, get the sense of your pelvis, your low back, how that feels today. We're going to work in the hips quite a bit today. And just a reminder to to really just moderate for yourself how many repetitions or how long a hold. You don't have to do what I'm doing. Just keep it honest for yourself, because sometimes it doesn't, you don't really feel the work till the next day. We'll just say that. Then with soles of feet to the floor, just some windshield wipers side to side. And just notice as you move side to side how your hips move, how the femur, the head of the femur moves in the hip socket. So we have internal and external rotation happening as we sweep the knees side to side. So this work on the floor just to really get us into our bodies, in touch with how things feel at the beginning of practice. Come back to center and bring your feet parallel to one another and about hip distance apart, and then pressing into your feet and lifting your hips, and just a little cascading bridge, bringing the arms behind and then rolling everything down and lowering. So just a few cascading bridge movements here. Now feeling the length of your spine, maybe the shoulders as well, how free and spacious your shoulders feel. Thursday we'll work more with the shoulders and the upper body. Today more the hips. Great. So then, yeah, coming back to resting. Okay, and take the legs long to begin with. Toes pointed towards the shins, really put some engagement in your legs. And then lift your left leg up towards the ceiling. So this will work with Supta Padangusthasana without the belt today. So just with the strength of our own, our functional mobility. We'll take the left leg out to the left, just as far as you can keep the right hip on the ground. So you're not picking the right hip up, and you're feeling the strength of your inner left leg working here. For 3, 2, 1, inhale back to center and then across midline. And again, just feel for some active stretch in the outer left hip, not rolling over to your right side, just a little bit of a twist as you hold the left leg across midline. For 3, 2, 1, back up to center, and let's go one more time, your own timing, out to the left first. Keep the right hip solid and grounded. And inhale to center at some point and across your midline. Back to center. Once your foot is pointed up at the ceiling, again, just bend your knee and bring your knee into your chest here. Take a couple of deep breaths. See if you can release and relax at your hip flexor. Just let it go there as you use outside pressure, the hands now, to help you hold that position in. Good. Then you can release your hands and just circle your knee in one direction. So we're still in the left leg. Left knee is bent. Circle your leg in the opposite direction. And maybe a little feathering. Good. And then we'll take left leg to the floor. Inhale, right leg up. Okay, so toes are pulled back towards shins. There's an even pressure through the metatarsal arch, like pressing your sole onto the ceiling, and then open out to the right. Don't let the left hip tug up here. Keep the left hip rounded. So you might not go very far. And you'll feel your inner leg working. For 3, 2, 1. Inhale back to center and then across midline. just far enough so you feel a little work on the outer right hip. You're just holding there, cross the midline. Good, and then we'll, on 3, 2, 1, back up to center. Okay, so this is a holding stretch at your end range. So allow your right leg to come out to the right. You'll feel the work in your inner thigh, and you're just pressing through your heel and holding there for 3, 2, 1, back to center. Sole of the foot facing the ceiling, then come across your midline. You're just in a little twist, just across midline, enough to feel some work in your outer right hip. Press through your heel, press through your big toe mound for 3, 2, 1, then back up to center. Bend your right knee, bring your knee into your chest with your hands. So now outsourcing the work of the hip flexor to the hands, and see if you can relax that hip flexor, the right knee. Good. Then we release the hands and circle the knee in one direction. So you're circling the knee like you're drawing a big circle on the ceiling with your knee, and you'll feel this work in your hip. And then take it the other direction. And then maybe a little feathering, so the knee back and forth, or the foot back and forth. That works a different, sort of different way in the hip. Good. And then stretch both legs long again. Press through your heels, pull your toes back towards your heels. Great. Then we're going to come back to the bridge pose, but you'll probably need to rock yourself up. You can take your 2 blocks and set them down where your feet will be, okay, and right beside one another. So if you need to pop up here and see what I've done, I've got my 2 blocks here for my feet. If you don't have blocks, if you don't have 2 blocks that match, you could have something like just some way to put your feet up a little bit, like maybe a folded blanket, or if you had 2 books that were exactly the same size, but you do want your blocks to match. And then you'll come down onto your back, and arms could be in any position. You can have your arms alongside your body, fingers pointing up like the robot arms, or down to your sides. And then you're just going to press and lift and drop your hips back down, and press and lift and drop your hips back down. Okay, and we're going to repeat this, and this is where you need to just choose for yourself. Maybe you're going to do 6 reps of this, and maybe you want to do about 20 reps of this. You choose. But we'll press and lift. You might feel a little bit of cramping in your hamstrings. So if you do feel any cramping in your hamstrings, you want to stop and let that cramping relax by maybe straightening your legs. But we'll press up the hips. Feet are up on the blocks as we press up and release back down. And press up and release back down. Great. Great. Now, keep your blocks there, maybe slide your body, because you might want to do that one again. That might be where you go again. The next one, though, is soles of the feet on the floor. I'm going to keep the sole of my right foot on the floor, and I'm going to hover my left knee above my chest, or hold my left leg with my hands, or rest my left foot on my right knee. But this is a one-legged bridge. I find it easiest just to let my foot hover. So now my right foot is really in close towards midline, and I'm going to press up and lower down, and press up and lower down. It's a one-legged bridge. Press up and lower down. If this doesn't feel good in your back for any reason, go back to the feet stacked on your blocks version and just do that one. But if this feels okay, again, moderate your reps. Maybe you're going to do 8. Maybe you're going to do 30. Maybe you're going to do 2. Moderate. You're just trying to get a burn in the outer hip muscles, the glutes, the piriformis, okay? And at some point, then we'll switch it out. Left foot to the floor, right foot hovering, or right foot resting on left knee, and then press up, one-legged bridge this side. Again, feel into what feels right for you in terms of the number of reps you're going to do. You can always come back and revisit any of these things, these exercises another time. Good. Then we'll bring the soles of the feet back to the floor. Just let your knees, now take your feet wide, let your knees rest together. Take a couple of integrating breaths. Allow your body to really integrate that work. So when we are working in physical practices, asana in particular in yoga, for more spaciousness, more opening, we really want to work the end range of our either concentric or eccentric contraction. We want to work the end range and get and strengthen that end range, because that's where our muscles are the weakest, at the end range. Okay. Now separate your knees and just a couple more windshield wipers before we roll up here. And then choosing either to cross at the ankles and rock yourself up or roll to one side, we'll come up to a seat. We're going to take our legs wide here, legs wide, feet out wide, hands can be behind your back, and just revisit this windshield wiper motion in this position. So as I let my knees go to one side, one leg is going into internal rotation, the other into external rotation, right? So just visiting this a little bit here, this work in the hips. So this next little sequence that we're going to do, it's pretty hard, so be kind. Okay, so what we're going to do is let our knees go to the left, and then we want to make sort of the shape of two 90-degree angles. So the left leg is, let's call that our front leg, is in 90 degrees, and the back leg, my right leg, it's in 90 degrees. My back leg's in internal rotation and my front leg's in external rotation. So if it doesn't quite work in your body to be 90 degrees, say that back leg, just pull your heel in closer to your buttocks. Same with the front leg. But if you can find that 90, then we'll twist towards, and you might have to draw your hip back, the front leg will twist towards the front leg, the left leg. Now press your left leg into the floor. Press it into the floor isometrically. Feel that work. Sit up nice and tall. Maybe you can fold into that front leg, towards that front leg. Find the spot that works for you. Some of you might be completely over the front leg, but press the leg into the floor. Make the hip work here instead of just being passive. Great. Now, wherever you are, take your attention now to your back leg, your right leg, and see if you can lift your back foot off the floor. It might not come up. All right, just the foot, and then set it back down. just the foot. And even if it doesn't go anywhere, imagine that it's lifting off the floor. So just the foot. This is work in the outer hip of the back leg. Just the foot comes up. Set it back down. Good. Couple more if that feels okay for you. And then next time you set your back foot down, press your back knee and your back leg firmly into the floor. Press your front lower leg firmly into the floor. Really pressure your legs into the floor. It's isometric work. Nothing's moving, but we've got muscles fired. For 3, 2, 1, and release. Relax and switch to the other side. So we're in this 90-90, and we're turned to the front leg. My front leg is now my right leg, and my back leg is my left leg. I'm turned to face the front leg and press my front knee down towards the floor. Pressing, holding, keeping length in my spine, and then folding to any amount that feels okay and comfortable in my body. Using my hands for balance. Three, 2, 1. Now from here, and you might stay forward, but it might be easier to bring your hands back. See if you can lift your back foot, just your foot. Lift the back foot off the floor. If it doesn't lift off the floor, just imagine that it is lifting off the floor. Whew. This side's way harder for me. I've got maybe an inch off the floor. Couple more. Then press the back knee down into the floor. Press the front knee and lower leg into the floor. So there's pressure. Both legs are pressing into the floor isometrically. Lengthen through your spine. Might not feel like a lot of work, but it might feel like a lot of work tomorrow. Like you did a lot of work. Good. Then we'll inhale to release. Good. And let's come to table. And here, if you know that you need some padding for underneath your knees when we stand up on our knees, go ahead and set that up for yourself with a little blanket action. If you're okay, straight on the mat, we'll do some cat-cows to begin. Inhale to the cow and exhale, round and press up into cat. Just a few here. Coming back, we're neutralizing the pelvis, neutralizing the spine. And then come to neutral spine, tuck the knees in a little closer. Draw the right knee into your chest, open it out to the side, straighten the right leg, and bend your right knee back into your chest. So you're going to circle around with the knee going wide and out, straightening the leg and coming back in. And you can breathe, you can match your breath here by that might be your whole inhale and then exhale in. Or you might exhale the knee into the chest. Inhale to open and straighten your leg out and then bring it back in. Okay? And then at some point, reverse that. So reach the right leg back, bend your knee, take it out to the side, draw it in. So reverse the circling. Then set that knee down. And of course, we go to the other side. Draw your knee into your chest, open the knee out to the side, straighten through your leg, bring it back in. You'll reverse the direction of your circling. The next time you come around and set your knees down, both knees down, set your hips back towards child's pose. See if you can let your hips just drop towards the floor, hands extended out in front or in full balasana. Let your back spread open. Just take a little, maybe 2 rounds of breath to integrate that movement. Good. Then bring hands forward. Come up to cow on the inhale. Turn toes under, press up and back, downward facing dog. Okay, so now let's just practice where we want to be with this. We're going to do a little sun salutation, a little vinyasa, but instead of forward folding, we're going to come into a squat. So walk your feet up towards your hands for now, and take your feet as wide as your mat, and sit your hips back and find a squat that feels doable for you. So you might be in full malasana, with your hips all the way down. But if that hurts the knees, or that's just not possible in your body, you could be up in a more like a utkatasana, right? Okay. And then let's go back to downward facing dog. Take your feet as wide as your mat in downward dog. Sway the hips right and left. Sway the hips right and left. Good. Now here we go with the little vinyasa. So inhale and exhale. Inhale, walk your feet up to your hands. Exhale, come into the squat. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, fold. Any amount of bend in your knees is fine. Inhale, press into your feet, and sweep your arms up. And then on your exhale, instead of folding into a forward fold, drop down into the squat. Exhale here. Inhale, take your hands to the mat, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Any amount of bend in your knees is fine. Inhale, press into your feet, sweep your arms up. Stand up, reach up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Take your time. You might be dizzy. Hands to your side, Tadasana. Inhale, sweep your arms up. And on your exhale, hinge at the hips, drop the hips back, and come into the squat. Whatever your squat is going to look like. Inhale here. Exhale, hands to the floor. Halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees any amount for the fold. Inhale, press into your feet. Lift your hands up. Stand up. Exhale, hands rest at heart center. And down to your sides. Let's try one more. Inhale, sweep your arms up. Exhale, hinge at the waist, drop the hips back, and come into the squat. Exhale. Inhale, hands to the floor, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold, any amount of bend in the knees. And then inhale, sweep your arms up, stand up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Release your hands down to your sides. Good. Now, here's where you might want your chair. In fact, I'd recommend using the chair. I'll show it to you with the chair to my side. Okay, so, and wherever, if you don't have a chair, a counter would work actually, or the edge of a piece of furniture, but we're gonna come into a little bit of a squat, just a teeny bit of bend in the knees. And I'm gonna take my weight into my left leg and bring my right ankle above my left knee, as if I'm going into that figure four, that standing figure four, but I'm gonna hover my foot. Hover, 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 hover. I'm hovering, I'm building strength in this other leg here, this other hip. Then I'll set my ankle on my knee, okay? And then this might be enough for you to fold here. If you can take your same arm underneath your knee, hand underneath your knee, press the knee into the hand and pull back against your knee. This is isometric work. I'm using the chair because it's really not the balance that I'm after, okay? It's this isometric work in my hips. Okay, I'm gonna press out of that, shake out my legs. Okay, and if you're just getting to it, that's okay. Go ahead and set it up. Shake out your legs, maybe a little bouncing to shake out. And then we'll try the other side. All right, so I come into a little squat and I hover opposite ankle above the knee, like I'm gonna go into the figure four. And the hovering now, pull toes back towards shins, then hovering. I'm building some endurance here. I'm building some end range strength. Then I'm gonna set the ankle on the knee and come into that fold as much as possible. You might have to move away from your prop, your chair prop. Okay, I'm in the fold, and then I take the same side hand underneath my knee. I press my knee into my hand and I pull. I have isometric action happening, knee to hand, hand to knee, pressing those two together against one another. And I'm gonna feel some burn in the outer thigh eventually. So when I'm ready, I'm gonna step out, shake it out. Okay, if you wanted to do one more on each side, you could, but we'll set the chair over to the side for the moment. Inhale to reach up. Exhale, fold, come into hands on the floor and step back to downward dog. So again, take your feet wide and sway your hips back and forth. Then come up onto your toes, feet are wide here in this dog. Take heels over to the right, set the heels down. Bring your hip over to the right, your hips over to the right. You should feel a nice stretch in the left inner leg, maybe a little bit in the outer right hip, and then heels up, heels to the left, hips to the left. Back to center, regular downward dog. Inhale, drop your knees to cow. Exhale, tops of the feet down onto the floor. Set your hips back towards child's pose. I'm going to keep my head up here. So I'm not dropping fully down into the floor. Inhale, come back to cow. Exhale, turn toes under, set hips up and back, downward facing dog. Take your feet as wide as the edge of your mat. Sway hips right and left. And then feet right into more of a standard downward dog, lined up underneath your hips. Then inhale the right leg out behind you. Exhale, draw your knee into your chest. And then bring your knee out to the right. Straighten it back. Bring knee into chest. Same thing we did on the floor, kneeling, but now standing in this downward dog. So knee into the chest, then open the knee out to the side, straighten the leg, bring the knee back into the chest, out to the side, straighten the leg. Try reversing that. So from a straight leg, bend the knee, circle it under your chest, straighten the leg, bend your knee out to the side, circle it around underneath your chest. Good. That standing leg is probably getting a little burn. So we'll set the foot down and try the other side. Inhale, left leg out. Exhale, bring your knee into your chest, a little rock forward. Then bring the knee out to the side, straighten the leg, bring the knee back into the chest, out to the side, straighten the left leg. And again, you can come back to these and do many more repetitions if you want to. Great, now with the leg straight, bend it out to the side, then sweep the knee underneath your chest, then straighten your leg again, come out to the side, bent knee, sweep your knee underneath your chest, straighten your leg. Couple more. Then we'll set that foot down. Inhale, come to cow. Exhale, tops of the feet to the floor, come back to child's pose. This time you can come all the way to a full balasana. Let your back spread open wide, arms to your side. Let your hips be heavy, heavy, heavy here. Take a couple of breaths. Let everything get integrated into your body. And then bring your hands out in front. Inhale, come up to cow. Exhale, turn toes under. Come up to downward facing dog. Walk your feet up to your hands, deep bend in the knees as you press up to standing. Great. Okay, now you'll need a block or your book. And again, you can have a chair or a wall space for balance. So this is more about working the hips than balance. But we'll take one foot onto the block or the book and stand with the other foot hovering next to it. And these are called hip hikes. So all I'm doing is allowing I'm standing on the block with my left foot, and I allow my right hip to sort of slouch down, and then I hike it back up by pulling the outer left hip in. So there's this action. There's not a lot of movement here. I just let my hip relax down, the one that's hovering, and then I pull it back up so that it's hovering next to the other one by pulling the outer hip in of the standing leg. So maybe you want to do 10 or so hip hikes on one side. Take your time. I'm just going to shift myself to my second side. So do as many as you want. I'm on, my third round here, practice, teach, teach. So I'm going to not do maybe as many as you are. If you can, make sure that that foot that's hovering, toes are, ankles flexed a bit. You've got some brightness in your foot. Good. And you'll do both sides. Both sides. Great. All right, and you could take a sun salutation in between that, or do some bouncing, just shake out, shake the legs out. And then as you can see, I'm setting up my chair with the seat of the chair facing me. And I'm going to take my blocks on any level, maybe the tallest level or the middle level. And I'm going to set my blocks in front of the chair. So this is a two-part, it could be a three-part as well, but a two-part movement. I'm going to start with the chair, the highest movement, and then I'll maybe go down to the blocks and then maybe the floor. So I'm going to put my weight into my right foot, bend through my knees slightly. And then as I hinge at the waist, take my hips back, hinge at the waist, lift the back leg, I let my fingers touch the seat of the chair, and then I come back up to standing. And then I repeat that. And I'm really not putting any weight on my left foot. I'm just letting it kind of skim the ground or touch the ground. I got my right knee bent, and I'm just doing this little hingey thing. And you can see where this looks a lot like a variation of Warrior 3, right? But we're doing repetitions here. Strengthening the outer hip of the standing leg. Good. And if that feels pretty good to you, then you can back away and go for the blocks. The next step would be maybe the blocks at a lower level or the floor. I mean, I feel the work more when I go for the blocks, quite a bit. I feel it more work in the hip. So once you're to some fatigue in that first hip, we'll switch to the opposite side. Okay, and start upright, a little bend in the knee, back leg goes out, you hinge at the hips, and take your hands to the prop. Okay, so if you have any kind of issues that affect, standing on one foot, you go back to the same side, or just keep it high. Just keep your dip high. Again, if that feels pretty good to go to that high spot, you can go to a lower spot. Woo. Yep. And then once that hip is fatigued, that's enough for today. You can always come back and revisit. Move the chair out of the way. Take your blocks over to the side, and let's meet in downward facing dog. Again, feet wide, and get a little sway in your downward dog. Hips side to side. Good, 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 good. Now, from here, bring the feet back underneath the hips and inhale the left leg up. Bend the left knee and come forward into the beginning of pigeon. So left knee near left wrist, slide the right leg long. Stay upright here. So we're not going to prop anything underneath this hip. We're going to stay upright here. Okay, and really use the strength of this is where we have functional mobility. We're going to use the strength of our hip to stay upright. Okay, and I think the only reason this might bother you is if it bothers your knee, which then you could go to your back and do the figure 4, but we're going to come into Gomukhasana from here. So now I'm pressing my front leg, I'm pressing it into the floor. Press it into the floor. Really feel that end range strength happening. Then I'm going to lower onto my left hip. Swing my right leg around. I'm not going to use my hands if possible. I'm going to swing my right leg around in front of me. That takes some strength too. And then I'm going to bend my knee and wiggle. I'll turn this way for you. And wiggle my legs into Gomukhasana. Your best expression of Gomukhasana. So the knees are stacked over one another. I did use my hands there, but we're going to try to not use our hands. Now in my Gomukhasana, sit up nice and tall. Sit up nice and tall. If you can fold forward slightly, enough to take opposite hand underneath. I'm sorry, let's take this. Now let's take the opposite. Opposite hand underneath your knee. Bring your other hand forward for support. And then press your knee against your hand and pull against your knee with your hand. So that same isometric action as you can feel the top leg, you're going to feel that outer hip working at its end range So this is working end range strength. Yep. And I hope you feel it. We'll back off. We'll undo the legs. Just a little easy windshield wiper. Yep. Just any tightness in the hip experience there. And then we'll come back to the cow, the table position. Inhale to cow. Exhale, turn toes under, press up and back down, facing dog. Okay, opposite side now. Inhale, opposite leg, it's right leg, you should be on the right leg. Exhale as you draw the right knee towards the right wrist and slide your other leg back. And we're not propping underneath the hip because we're going to use our own strength to stay upright. Now, you could have, if you need some or want some blocks out here in front to help you stay in that upright, because this is a little bit of a back bend too. But we're going to press the front foot, press the front leg into the floor and feel the tone there. Feel the tone in the outer hip. And we'll hold it for 3, 2, 1. Good. Then we drop onto that hip, swing the left leg around. Instead of taking my leg and putting it into Gomukhasana, I'm going to do it with the mobility of my hips. So I'm going to bend at the knee and wriggle my legs into place. See if I can do that all without using my hands on my legs. Your hands are on the floor for balance, but you're not using them for your legs. Great. And then once you have your Gomukhasana leg set up, tall spine, teeny bit of forward motion if possible, hinging at the waist. You're going to feel this in your outer left hip. Now, if you bring your left hand forward, sorry, I'll get out of the sun there. If you bring your left hand forward for balance, you can take opposite arm underneath that knee or hand, and then press the knee into your hand and pull back with your hand and feel your outer hip working against that resistance. Again, this is end range strengthening. Yeah, and do what works for you. If you need to come down to your back and do a figure 4 here, great. Very good. And then on 3, 2, 1, we'll release the legs. You might stay right here for a breath and just feel it. And then some easy windshield wiper movement. Great. Then just pivot yourself around, come onto your back, soles of your feet to the floor. Let's revisit a couple of rolling bridges. So solid feet and knees parallel, feet parallel, and then just press yourself up. Maybe hold here. Okay, and if you wanted to, today or another time, you could scoot your left foot in, really press solid, and lift the right leg. Not necessary, but you could if you wanted to. Just see how you're feeling strong in your hips right now. Or just stay in the bridge pose. Or take a block underneath your sacrum and stay in a supported bridge pose. We're winding down. So as we wind down, we can let some of this fierceness go and start to allow our body to move back into parasympathetic nervous system relaxation. So wherever you are, we'll meet back down on the floor. In the position of comfort. So knees bent. Great. Now let's take the figure 4. So let's take left ankle on right knee, and then drop knees to the left. Drop knees to the left. If that feels too much, then we're just got a twist and a little side opening, and maybe you feel a little bit of opening in the outer right hip. If that's too much, though, just stack your knees and bring your knees over to the left. And my position, the position of the legs for me, really changes the stretch for me. So if I have my knees kind of stacked, I actually feel that more as an outer hip stretch. And if you wanted to deepen that, you could straighten that top leg and take your hand, left hand, to your thigh and just give a little tug down on your leg, a little resistance back against your hand. And that's working end range strength. Or you can just stack your knees, try to scoop your belly button so it's pointing up towards the ceiling. And then we'll inhale the top leg up, right? And we'll take the other side. So beginning all again, if we're going to use the figure 4, we stack the right ankle on the left knee, drop knees to the right. That could be just where you hang out for a couple breaths, or stack the knees over to the right, or straighten the top leg, right hand to the top of the left thigh, outside of the left thigh. You choose what feels like the best thing for you at this moment. Then inhale, top leg up. Come back to the neutral position with your hips, your legs, your knees. Do a few pelvic tilts here to come back to neutral after the twist. And then if there's something else you need, a happy baby or anything else, take it. But begin to deepen your exhale, finding the spaciousness of breath as you come into your Shavasana shape. Let your breath really help you find spaciousness there. And let everything settle. This is the part we don't want to skip. So allow yourself to really just unfold for a few minutes here. Yeah. Soften the space between your eyes and at the corners of your eyes. And sense that your body is as big as your mat. It kind of spreads a little bit bigger, maybe even than your mat. And feel the space around your body. The space between your body and the walls of your room. Spaciousness in your heart. And just take in, as I close us with the ohms, just really just stay where you are, if that's okay, and just take in the vibration of the ohm. So there's a spaciousness that gets created when we allow that vibration to settle in our bodies. So I'll do 3 ohms, and there'll be a pretty good pause at the end of each ohm where just really feel that vibration creating space in your body. Deepest blessings for more spaciousness in your life. Namaste.